And welcome back to the Paisan Sports Podcast presented by Recliner Media. Recliners still loading, still not here yet. Dante DePlacido joined as always by Zach Deal of What's the Deal Sports. So I've got to ask, what's the deal with Pittsburgh? First, the Flyers go up 3-0 on them in the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then on draft night, Pittsburgh all ready to draft their wide receiver, Mackay Lemon. They got him on the phone. Hey, buddy, we're going to take you at pick 21. Get ready. Hold on. Why is Philly calling? It's Howie Roseman. Once again, the Eagles have teamed up with the Dallas Cowboys to take a wide receiver out from under another team. They leapfrog. They take Mackay Lemon. They take him away from Pittsburgh whilst the draft is taking place in Pittsburgh. So they beat them twice in hockey on their own turf. And they go into Pittsburgh and they take a wide receiver from them on their own turf. What's going on there?
I was smiling and laughing because for some reason when you said the Stanley Cup playoffs, I thought about a bunch of middle-aged women fighting over Stanley Cups at Target.
Interesting.
Do you think that's the true Stanley Cup playoffs?
I hear Stanley Cups are out now. I feel like every year it's a different cup.
Yeah, there's a new trend in.
Yeah, there's a new cup every year.
We always know the longevity was with hockey, but yeah, up 3-0. Last night obviously didn't go as planned, but I was saying all along that when they started this streak, not before the series started because I thought it was going to go 6, but when the Flyers went up 2 games, I thought they would win game 3-2, go up 3-0, and then the Penguins would get back into it, and Sidney Crosby put on a pretty good performance for the Penguins last night to win the 3 Stars award in that game and keep the series alive and not for a sweep. Could you imagine the banter between Pittsburgh Penguin fans and Flyers fans if the Flyers would have swept them in that series, especially with Sidney Crosby?
Well, I was hoping there would be a sweep so that Pittsburgh would look even worse at the start of this podcast. Unfortunately, we didn't bring home the sweep.
I just thought it was unrealistic. At some point, Chris
tough.
Letang, Evgeny Malkin, and Sidney Crosby were going to lead them to a victory, and that's exactly what happened. But, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, 2 Pennsylvania teams, too. Even though there's a very long distance between them, they had tied-in franchises with the Steagles back in the day. So it's 2 sports cities that have been intertwined before. And yeah, they stole their wide receiver in Pittsburgh, and they teamed up with their arch nemesis, the Dallas Cowboys, to land another round 1 wide receiver. And it's funny because to add on to that tidbit as well, the Cowboys ended up drafting an edge rusher just like they did the last time when that trade was executed, and Micah Parsons is no longer a part of the Dallas Cowboys organization. So we'll see how long Malachi Lawrence will be a part of the Cowboys
and I also find it funny, Malachi, similar first names there as well.
I actually had that random thought to myself too. But going back to the Pittsburgh to finish this What's the Deal segment, that's got to be crushing, and it almost might lead to a tampering issue where if they were maybe on the phone, I guess we got to pull the phone records. That's what I was trying to think about earlier before this podcast. What's the tracking for the tampering of this? Do they have to pull the phone records of when Pittsburgh was on the phone?
Well, it's literally it's on video. I mean, I don't really even think they'd have to.
I know, but they would have to see where if Pittsburgh was on the phone before Philadelphia got the trade up executed, and then that's it kind of intertwined, or if they just ended up calling him before Mackay Lemon could figure out that the Eagles were trying to call him, because he literally said, why are the Philadelphia Eagles trying to call me? But they went up and got their wide receiver. Also, the What's the Deal segment, to transition into it, what's going on with the Eagles? 11 wide receivers currently in their wide receiver room, and they've added some undrafted talent as well. We can go through that list of players.
Well, before we get into, just to speak on the tampering a bit for a second, not only do they have a case with Pittsburgh tampering, but they also have a case with New England tampering, right? Because now it's clear and evident that there was a long-going relationship between Diana Russini and Mike Vrabel. I don't know if you saw this past week, but now there's photo evidence of the relationship starting all the way 6 years ago, and also there's a photo evidence from 2024. So it's evident it's been going on this whole time. You have a situation where all last season Diana Russini is making report after report that AJ Brown is going to be traded out of Philly, and linking it to the New England Patriots. And while that was happening, she was in a relationship with the New England Patriots head coach. That is a legitimate case for tampering, legitimately. So,
and Dante, I know you listen to sports radio in Philadelphia, as pretty much every Philadelphia sports fan in South Jersey, the Delco area, and Pennsylvania area, and Philadelphia do, right?
Not as much anymore.
But like you tune in every so often, especially like if you're in the car listening to the basketball broadcasts that are on 97.5 or the baseball broadcasts on 94.1.
Yeah.
So on 94.1 they were doing the Philadelphia Sports Insider of the Year, and Diana Russini won it a couple weeks before all of this happened. So I thought that was absolutely hilarious. That all tied in together, and that kind of got swept under the rug a little bit because that's just bad timing and everything, but that's just what happens.
Yeah, so I mean, the Eagles might be in a situation where they can be awarded draft.
And we'll see how hard they come down. It's not exactly the same situation, but I know a couple years ago the Steelers, when they got Joey Porter Jr., Penn State cornerback, he was the 32nd pick in the draft, but he was actually a second-round pick because the Dolphins, for their tampering case, I think with Tom Brady and somebody else, it might have been a coach or something. They lost a draft pick, so there was only 31 first-round draft picks a few years ago. And so if you lose a first-round pick, I don't think the Patriots will. It's that type of situation, maybe lose a first-round pick, but you lose a first-round pick in the NFL draft, I mean, that could really set your roster back. And especially for a team like the Dolphins, when that happened to them, they weren't in the AFC Championship or anywhere where it was a
they were trying to build something.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing, too, is if you're the Eagles, you have two options, right? Because if you're legitimately looking to trade A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots, now you've put yourself in a position of leverage where you can say, listen, either give us a bigger haul than what we were initially asking for, or we are going to come down on you with this tampering case. So you're either going to forfeit that first-round pick, or you're going to give it to us and what we originally wanted for A.J. Brown. So it could be used as a situation for leverage for the Eagles.
Yeah, I believe so as well. Maybe not as drastic as you may believe, not saying that you're exaggerating or anything, but we'll see exactly what happens. And as for that, you just mentioned a guy that's the first time on the podcast you've kind of freely came out and said that there might be a possibility that A.J. Brown is no longer an Eagle. How do you feel about that situation as they had a first-round wide receiver entry up to do so?
I mean, listen, after drafting Mekhi Lemon, now it's becoming more apparent that A.J. Brown, I mean, there's a good possibility he's gone after June 1st. Now, what I will say is this.
To cut you off, I just want to build on that transition of leverage you just talked about with another franchise. Can they build leverage inside the organization as to where, like, AJ, your replacement is on the roster now. Imagine you on the field with Mekhi Lemon and Devontae Smith, and maybe we can get 1 year out of AJ Brown left on the roster if they can somehow reclimate this thing, even though it looks like it's completely far gone. But do you think maybe the Eagles can kind of have leverage over AJ Brown in the trade situation? Like, hey, look, we have your young replacement on the roster. This is it. Like, either you're a Philadelphia Eagle or you're not, because we're coming out in press conferences like Howie Roseman saying we don't have a trade lined up after the draft. And if A.J. Brown is an Eagle, we're going to take this process one day at a time. But that's also kind of leaving it open.
I will
not exactly what John Lynch. I don't know if you just saw what John Lynch, the San Francisco 49ers GM, just said about Brandon Ayuk, where he just completely came out and said that Brandon Ayuk is no longer a part of the 49er organization.
Yeah,
they're going to work to get a trade, and he can help somebody else out in the future. But they just completely freely. And that's also a dude that makes, I think, exactly the same amount of money as A.J. Brown, or a little bit more. I think he has 28 per, and AJ's like a little bit around 30-ish. But same situation.
Yeah, well, I will say two things. One, if the Eagles do trade A.J. Brown, I actually don't want to trade him to the Patriots. I mean, partially because of the whole situation. I don't want to give them the satisfaction. But logistically, I mean, when you look at the draft the Eagles just had, the one thing they didn't do in the early rounds that I think they really needed to do was draft a safety. Now, I do really like the guys they did draft, and we'll get into that. But this team still needs a safety opposite of Andrew Makuba. Now,
They got the exciting white replacement.
Yeah,
in the 7th round.
Yeah, but you can't
with the
count
same last
on-
name
you
as
can't-
another Philadelphia Eagles legend in
Yeah.
Wisniewski.
Yeah.
Who's a thumper.
Here's
and
the
we
thing.
got him at safety. And he used to be a linebacker. And he's 6'4",
Stop
220 pounds.
I just
he's
said
a dude
chest yesterday.
that-
Don't fucking hit me there.
He's a dude that is ready to come in and lay the wood, and that's exactly what they need. And he's probably a
Well,
linebacker
listen,
tweener.
here-
So you need to put some respect
Listen,
on my guy's name.
Hold on. Wisniewski,
What was the last time that we saw
let
a
me
late
talk-
round
we let
draft
me
pick?
fucking talk.
The Eagles, Moro Jomo. What does he
about that?
suck?
How about that?
Does Moro Jomo suck?
Listen, you can't count on your 7th round pick to be a starting safety. Now, the funny thing is, not only is Wisniewski white, and that would continue the trend of the exciting whites, he's a very similar player to Reed Blankenship. A big, physical, in-the-box safety, not great out in coverage. Very
Dylan
similar to
Fenneman
Reed.
from Oregon was like the 10th or 11th or 12th we talked about him.
I want to finish my thought.
I know,
before
but
we
I'm
keep
just
getting
saying,
off
he was
topic
there.
here.
Like, I just want to tie in. We were just talking about Mekhi Lemon, first-round pick. He was there if they just stayed put at 23 and didn't move at all. And he got drafted at 25. So the Eagles could have went that route if they really wanted to at safety. That just shows how much they liked Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah, but
and
anyway,
felt like they wanted to upgrade that position as opposed to safety.
Anyway, if they do trade A.J. Brown, I want to trade him for a starting safety. The Patriots don't have anybody I like at safety. Kevin
Byard?
Kevin Byard, he didn't work here the first time. He's getting even older now. I don't
He
want
was
to
a
trade.
first-team All-Pro last year.
Yeah, he didn't work out the first time he was here, and he's only getting older. I don't want to trade for.
You, but he was a first.
I don't want to trade for Kevin Byard. There are other safety. I looked at his coverage stats. They're dog shit. He allowed a passer rating of 133 in coverage in his rookie year for New England. I don't want him. I want to trade him to a team where we can get a starting safety. So that's
Arizona?
to get to my point. Being that we have Mekhi Lemon now, I really like Mekhi Lemon. So I won't be that upset if we trade A.J. Brown if it is for a starting safety. Now,
Okay,
here's the thing. I still want to finish my thought.
Let me add on to it for you real quick.
All right.
Budda Baker, Eagles legend, talked about a rumor to be an Eagle for how long? Would you trade A.J. Brown to the Arizona Cardinals for Budda Baker?
Throw in a pick and you have a deal. Now, listen, here's the thing. If you don't trade A.J. Brown, this offense might be the most stacked offense we've ever seen. You're talking about A.J. Brown.
Eagles history, the NFL history.
Maybe even the NFL history. Because we're talking about A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Mekhi Lemon, Dallas Goedert, Eli, what's his last name again? Stowers. Eli Stowers, Saquon Barkley, Tank Bigsby, the offensive line. This offense is absolutely loaded if you hold on to A.J. Brown. It's a generational offense. I would be so excited to see them on the field every week. So I would be thrilled if they don't trade him. And as long as they get a starting safety out of the trade, I won't be that upset if we let him go.
I mean, I don't really care if they get a position player back or not. If they do, that's just a plus. If they
This team needs a safety. This team needs a safety.
I know, but I don't need like a wide receiver positional value. You could get a lot better of a draft pick centric haul than just getting a safety back positional value wise if you look at it that way. So I'd rather do that. But if we can get an impact player like a Budda Baker, then I would be on board. But like you said, they would have to add a draft pick. I don't think it would have to be a drastic draft pick because give
us a third in Budda Baker.
They just made the trade, obviously, for Jonathan Grenard, so they just got their impact player that's already ready to go and juiced up, a former Pro Bowler who wasn't as effective last year, but I think in this scheme with Vic Fangio, his best days might be ahead of him, too. And he's also primed. He's a little bit up there in age, 4 years, $100 million that they gave him. They gave up a third and then I think a fourth next year to make that trade happen. And I felt like when that happened, with the surplus of picks of the 2/3 that they had this year, it felt like there was a huge gap in time from that Markel Bell pick in the third round to their next pick, and Howie even said that he was itching during that time period with how long it took between the end of day 2 and the start of day 3. But they obviously are fully committed to upgrading their passing game, going 2 skill position players and taking a risk on a guy that used to be a quarterback, but he was also coached by Eagles legend Jordan Matthews at Vanderbilt.
Well, also,
so they're taking a risk on him.
Who was the last tight end we had that used to be a quarterback?
It was the old Buffalo quarterback.
Huh?
The old Buffalo quarterback.
What are you talking about?
I'm like a sicko with college football, bro. That's I forget what his name is.
I'm talking about Trey Burton.
Yeah, this dude was before that.
Yeah, well, I'm saying the last guy.
He was on the roster for like 3 years, and they were trying to make him Tyree something.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're
6'7"
talking about.
quarterback,
Yeah, Tyree Jackson. Yeah. Well, okay, all right. So before him, though, Trey Burton. And what did Trey Burton do? He threw a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but overall consistency. Trey Burton was good. He was a gadget guy, but wasn't like the full-on overall package at tight end. That's like this fear with Eli Stowers is he's definitely not going to be a good blocker.
Oh, no, I'm not
He can't
comparing
block
the
at all.
two. I'm just saying.
A lot of people thought he was somebody that I had on the NFL draft show that had to keep an eye on, like a player that I showcased because he had a 45.5-inch vertical leap. Like that, imagine him catching an alley-oop from Tyrese Maxey. He's jumping higher than VJ Edgecombe, and he's taller than VJ Edgecombe.
Yeah,
imagine that. That's how athletic this dude is.
He's the second best tight end in the draft.
But Dallas Goedert is a receiving tight end that can also block as well. That's one thing that people thought last season. Your guy, their backup tight end, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now for some reason.
Calcaterra?
Yeah, Grant Calcaterra.
Yeah.
Former teammate with
I had high hopes
Jalen
for
Hurts
Calcaterra. He never really
in
played
college,
together.
but at Oklahoma. But his blocking kind of downgraded last season, and we don't know with the situation of Dallas Goedert.
Well, what I was reading up on Eli Stowers is that's kind of the knock on him.
Exactly.
He's not really
a lot of
good
people
blocker.
thought that he should lose a little bit of weight and then play wide receiver, and then that shows his versatility of what he can do for you.
I'd rather him tack on some mass and get better at blocking.
So that on top of it, you can't just look at it positional value wise with, every single position besides when you draft a quarterback, when we're talking about tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, offensive linemen specifically, linebackers, the safety that they just drafted, Cole Wisniewski, who's a safety hybrid linebacker type of guy that has a lot of experience playing linebacker. Cornerbacks that play nickel and safety. Every position besides cornerback or quarterback is interchangeable and needs to have positional versatility because how many offensive linemen do we say get drafted in the first round that are tackles that have to play guard because of the situation that they come into, or a running back that you want to draft high, you draft him high because he is also a receiver and you can line him up outside and do different things with him. So this guy with Eli Stowers, his big body, what I'm wrapping this all up into is not only A.J. Brown is completely aware that they just drafted Mekhi Lemon in the first round. They just drafted a big body receiving target that could possibly play wide receiver 2 if it works out. And not wide receiver 2, but wide receiver as well, and be a tight end. And he's the big body guy that could be the true replacement for A.J. Brown in the receiving game for the passing attack because of his more comparable size to A.J. Brown as opposed to Mekhi Lemon being smaller. Because Mekhi Lemon and A.J. Brown are two completely different receivers, even though Mekhi Lemon is really physical for his lack of size that he has.
So, looking at it, like last week, something we talked about before the Eagles drafted Eli Stowers, we talked about how when Brent Selleck was still in his prime, we drafted Ertz. When Ertz was still in his prime, we drafted Goddard. And now while Goddard is still in his prime, we've drafted Eli Stowers. Now, looking at it like this, right? So, Zach Ertz's rookie year in 2013, he catches for 469 yards. Brent Selleck that year caught for 500 yards. That's almost 1,000 yards combined. Dallas Goedert's rookie year, he catches for around 350 yards. That was also the same year Zach Ertz caught for 1,163 yards, so you're looking at 1,400 yards combined. Now, what do you see this duo of Dallas Goedert and Eli Stowers doing in Eli's rookie year while Dallas Goedert is still a very good receiving tight end?
Well, I think to this offense, it's going to be interesting to see because there's a lot of mouths to feed. Eli Stowers is a second-round pick. There's going to be no, like, pumping the brakes, like little package type things. Like, there might be that just because of the talent that they have in front of him at different spots in his youth and him just learning the position a little bit more. And, like, I don't expect them to try and use him as an inline blocker or anything. I think Grant Calcaterra will still have those responsibilities, but you'll see him on the field a good amount of the time, and it's not going to be like a Johnny Wilson type deal where he's just a big body guy that they're trying to get in at certain times. He's a second-round pick.
Yeah.
He needs to come in and make an impact right away. And Dallas Goedert, we don't know the exact future with him, although now Dallas Goedert in his declining years, maybe we see him take a little bit more of a pay cut like he's willing to do. We know he loves Philadelphia to stay on the roster and realize that him and Eli Stowers can form a really good duo. So after this year, he remains an Eagle and takes like a little bit of a pay cut, not being like the true tight end one anymore, even though he might still have that responsibility, but like the high volume guy because they're going to split time between those two guys. And that could be a really deadly duo. I think if you take Dallas Goedert out of the equation for Eli Stowers after his rookie year, even if Eli Stowers is going off at for whatever reason, and some teams really interested in Dallas Goedert and they give you like a draft pick or offer you one around the trade deadline, I think that could maybe stunt Eli Stowers' growth for him to learn behind a guy because he's still coming into his own at that position and learning that position in itself. But I like Eli Stowers as a receiving target, and it adds a very big body complement to a bunch of undersized guys that really are physical and go out and get the ball. And Devontae is, he's just one of the best receivers in the NFL. That's just what it is. And he also, he's not an athlete. He is an athletic freak, but he's not measurable like this, that, the. If you look at Devontae Smith, you would not expect him to be just going up and just mossing people the way that he does. Mekhi Lemon's even a little bit more stocky in his frame and around the same height or a little bit shorter.
He plays even more. He's shorter than Devontae.
Yeah,
he's 5'10".
Yeah, 5'11"-ish. And Devontae's 6 foot, but I'm saying he's a little bit more stocky.
Yeah.
He has a little bit more.
One's as thin as.
Yeah, but I'm saying he has a little bit more capability to be actually truly physical at the point of attack, catching the ball for his size, and that's exactly what he shows. But they actually have a guy that's gigantic and jumps nearly 46 inches in the air when he jumps up. That's 6'5". So they have a full complement of different types of guys with Dallas Goedert's size as well, where I think this passing attack. And the biggest thing about Eli Stowers that I'll say is his best work is done over the middle of the field, which the Eagles need improvement in the passing game. That is Jalen Hurts' biggest gripe.
I think that's been a coordinator issue over time. I mean, I think the biggest example.
It's also been a Jalen Hurts
Well,
issue,
if you look at the game against the Rams last year, right, that entire comeback was led by Jalen Hurts throwing the ball over the middle of the field. I think he's very
there's
capable.
No consistency in
I think
Jalen
he's
Hurts
very capable of doing it. I think it's just for example, why am I blanking on who our coordinator was this past year? Kevin Patullo. I mean, his favorite route to run was curl routes. He ran more curl routes than anyone else in the league.
But also, you have to realize that the offensive coordinator is trying to adapt to what the capabilities of the offense
but I also think Kevin Patullo is an idiot. So, I think
there's no sweeping under the rug Jalen Hurts issues in the passing game. He's a very talented winning quarterback.
My point is, I think the Eagles will throw over the middle of the field definitely more than what we saw last season.
But that's also
going back to the duo.
Let me just hit on that real quick because it's a mixture between what Jalen Hurts is capable of doing, lack of competence at the coordinator position, and the lack of guys that can go over the middle and make a play for them outside of Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown.
That is a good point, too.
Smitty does his best work deep-wise, so
because
he's
your
capable
slot
of doing
receiver
it.
was Jahan Dotson, who's not like a prototypical slot receiver.
He's a talented guy, but he's not on the XYZ chart of receiving. He's not more so that Y guy that you want to get there, but a perfect Y and F tight end is what they just drafted in Eli Stowers. So I think a lot of Eli Stowers' work, like I said, you don't want to stun his growth. You want to keep Dallas Goedert on the roster. The better blocking, and I mean, Dallas Goedert's been a top 8 tight end in the league since he's
Dallas
pretty much
Goedert's a great blocker.
Yeah, so if you keep him in the mix and allow Eli Stowers to go outside, then, I mean, imagine they can go 2 tight ends, and on paper, A.J. Brown remains an Eagle, which there's a 2% chance that happens, but if in the situation, for whatever reason, he does remain an Eagle, they could come out in a 2 wide receiver set three wide receivers set, two tight ends, and a running back, and those guys would be Eli Stowers, Dallas Goedert, Mekhi Lemon, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and the threat of Jalen Hurts running along with Saquon Barkley.
Wait. 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and a running back.
Yeah, that might be
no, that can't. That can't happen. But
no, actually, what I meant to say, what I was trying to say is like, I mixed up the names that I was trying to put in there. Eli Stowers could be that guy that you mix in as a wide receiver in a set where you like it's 2 tight ends that are out there and 3 wide receivers that are out there, but he is a hybrid between that because I really just see him as a piece. That's why I keep talking about the importance of Dallas Goedert being in this situation. They need guys that are going to be able to block because you're not going to be able to put Eli Stowers out there right away, probably for a couple years until he really starts working on it with his hand in the dirt blocking. That's just not going to work
the thing too is, I mean, going back to
red zone targets.
Well, going back to the trend, right? You see, like at first, Selleck was the starting tight end with Zach Ertz behind him, and then after a couple of years, it flip-flopped until Selleck was gone, and then in came Dallas Goedert, who was behind Ertz for a couple of years until it flip-flopped. I mean, this could very well be a similar situation again, where for a year or two, it's Eli Stowers behind Dallas Goedert in the depth chart, and then as Eli Stowers progresses and Dallas Goedert declines, then it's the other way around, and then Eli is your guy for 6 years until you do it all over again. So at this point, that is what I expect to see. And what's great about it is if you look at the trend as well, you had Selleck, who was primarily a blocking tight end. He was still a good receiving tight end, but his main strength was blocking. And then you accompanied that with Zach Ertz, who's not a great blocker, but an elite receiving tight end. And then you bring in Dallas Goedert, who's not as good of a receiving tight end as Ertz was, but a much better blocker. And now you do a similar thing again, where you have your blocking tight end with Dallas Goedert, who can also receive, but then you have your even better receiving tight end in Eli Stowers, who's not as good of a blocker. So they've always like mixed it well, where you have one guy who's mainly a blocking tight end but can still receive, and you have another guy who's an even better receiving tight end but not as well of a blocker. So you have a good mix and match of it, which they're continuing to do.
Of all those guys you just mentioned, Eli Stowers, we're talking about a significant decline as a blocker.
Ertz was not a good blocking tight end.
No.
I mean, I don't know a ton about Eli Stowers. All I know is he's not a good blocking tight end.
No, it's a different world.
What I know is Ertz wasn't a good blocking tight end.
Mac Hollins is a better blocker than...
Mac Hollins was a great blocker.
Yeah, but Mac Hollins' hand in the dirt, you feel better about than him. But as for the Eagles... I mean, they make the trade for Jonathan Bernard, so they finally upgrade the pass rusher as Jalen Phillips moves on to free agency. We talked about how much Howie Roseman, specifically at edge rusher, loves to get a 26, 27-year-old. Jonathan Bernard's like around 29, but coming off a Pro Bowl season a couple years ago and a very productive Vikings defense that kept them with their incompetence at offense this past season. And then they also get a gigantic tackle and Markel Bell in the 3rd round.
Monster, dude. 6'9". We thought Jordan Mailata
he looks a little
was
stiff.
big.
His legs are so long, he looks like a little bit stiff.
We thought Mailata was big.
We have athletic tackles now. I think this ushers in he's an athletic guy for his size and moves really well, but like change of direction type guys, like our offensive linemen, have been above average in that department. I don't know how much I really Markel Bell might be a different type of tackle, but he's definitely an anchor, and if he works out, they used to have King Dunlap, Trey Thomas. They've always had these massive.
John Runyon was the guy.
Who's the dude that I think it was King Dunlap that was with the Chargers as well. But they've always had these massive Jordan Mailata now.
Yeah.
Lane Johnson himself, who's a former quarterback tight end.
Lane is still 6'5" himself.
So maybe Lane Johnson can turn Eli Stowers. Maybe Lane Johnson, the guys that can help Eli Stowers being a former quarterback and tight end himself. But yeah, I think this ushers in a little bit different type of tackle that if he works out for the Eagles, and they also do Miles Hinton and Williams from last season of their draft class. And Howie just talked about in his after the draft press conference that he didn't want to go into the draft just going to upgrade positions. It was all about getting the best player available, and he knew you can't upgrade every position and do that if you just try to go in with the needs. So he specifically went out and got his favorite players.
Well, and the thing that too is that's still a positional need because, like we've been talking about, you need the heir to Lane.
I know a lot of people thought that they would force a tackle in the first round or force like a safety or something, and that's just not what they're going to do because Mekhi Lemon was like, people were wondering why the Rams went with Ty Simpson at 13 as opposed to Mekhi Lemon. So that's how good of a prospect he was on everybody's board.
Not happy
but everybody also nitpicks in the draft, and they're all like, this dude's only 5'11", blah, blah, blah. That's why Devontae Smith probably fell in that talented draft, and Jalen Waddle in that draft class just got traded for a big package. But two guys from the same school, not to mention Notre Dame, my guys just put 2 first-round running backs into the league, which was pretty crazy. And they ended up getting a quarterback. But also with the quarterback situation, transition back to Eagles, just not to get off topic, add that in there.
Well, because I do want to speak more of Markel Bell. But
yeah, but with the quarterback situation, they now have Andy Dalton. They also added a former North Dakota State quarterback. So it's funny. I like Jalen Hurts. I'm just not going to sit here and sweep under the rug his issues, but I'm not going to sweep under the rug his success as well. I think he meets in the middle, and the teeter of the seesaw is I like him as my quarterback, but this season is going to be huge for him in his development. I'm not saying Peyton's going to come in and take his position or anything, but could you imagine the story where the last situation was he took a North Dakota State quarterback's job as the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback, and a North Dakota State quarterback took his job as an Eagles quarterback?
Well, I think if anybody's going to take Jalen Hurts' job, which I don't think anyone's going to take Jalen Hurts' job, but I think if anybody were to do it, it would be the guy whose name I'm completely blanking on, who we've argued
Andy
over.
Dalton.
What? No. The guy we've had multiple arguments about. I'm blanking on
Sam Howell?
No. The guy who played the final game of the season this year for us. I'm blanking on his name. I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, Andy Dalton's in the mix now, so that's
yeah. Well, I mean Andy Dalton. I mean he's ancient.
Andy Dalton would come in a playoff game before him.
No, I don't.
Tanner McKay.
Tanner McKay. That's his goddamn name.
Yeah, he's so important that you can't even remember. You can't even remember his name. He's so important.
Do we still have Kyle McCord as well? Do we still have him on the roster?
Yeah, he's gone.
Okay.
I thought what's his name? Sam Howell for some reason.
Well, getting back to Markel Bell. Getting back to Markel Bell.
I just wanted to hit more on what Howie Roseman said in that press conference because he said he's fully comfortable with moving on with 4 quarterbacks on this roster. And I think when you trade for Andy Dalton, Tanner McKay, when contract comes up for Tanner McKay, that's probably at the end of the season, he's going to ask for a lot more money than what the Eagles are going to.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to end up. Yeah, I don't think they're going to end up holding on to him. But I mean, if something were to happen this season, I could see it being Tanner McKay. And the training camp and preseason is also going to be more of a test to see who is the next guy behind Jalen Hurts. And if you put Tanner McKay in a quarterback battle with Andy Dalton for the QB2 spot, I don't see Andy Dalton outperforming Tanner McKay in that quarterback battle. But getting back to Markel Bell.
Completely disagree.
Getting back to Markel Bell. When you look at I look at the idea of not only is he going to be Lane Johnson's replacement after Lane retires, but looking at Lane Johnson's injury history the past few seasons, I would almost expect Markel Bell to maybe start some games this year. Now, they might go with Fred Johnson. Yeah, they might go with Fred Johnson. Once again, I think it could be.
He'll be in that top 7 offensive line rotation. He'll be right outside.
But the other thing, too, is when he does eventually replace Lane Johnson, you've got one tackle who's 6'8", and one tackle who's 6'9", and just even larger in stature than Jordan Mailata. Imagine those as your 2 tackles. Imagine being a defense, and those are the 2 tackles you have to go up against.
We'll see. Hopefully that could be the replacement because that would be a huge hit at getting your starting offensive tackle on the right side in the 3rd round. But
a very early 3rd round. It was the 4th pick in the 3rd round. I mean, that's
also 60-something picks into the draft, and
there was a big gap between. That early 3rd round. I mean, you see a lot of NFL.
Yeah, we've seen other guys that people consider to be Brian Dawkins and Sidney Brown. A lot of people, even big time, well respected Philadelphia sports members, saying that. 3rd
round, so, you get.
I'm not trying to just put misses. I'm not trying to put cold water on that situation. I'm just saying, if they really felt like they were going to get a Lane Johnson tackle replacement, they probably would have done that in the first round of the draft if they felt comfortable with one of those guys. But that just shows how much they were committed to Mekhi Lemon. But overall for the draft class, if we can run through some of the other names that they got, and they added some talent, the undrafted free agents. But what would you rate this draft class from Howard Roseman at, considering that they also, which a trend that they just keep doing, whether it's late into the season with like a Cena Gardner-Johnson trade right before the season happens, when the old cornerback that was a former All-Pro that they got from the Giants, they added him in May a few seasons back. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on this dude's name. I have a bad memory.
Wait. Say it again.
He flared out big time. James Bradbury. They just keep adding guys, whether it's at the draft with A.J. Brown a couple years ago or like late into the season, like I said, that are key impact players at different spots, and Jonathan Grenard's that. So with him inside this draft class and considered in this draft class, what would you give this draft class?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely lump Grenard into the draft class, right? Because edge rusher was a big positional need, and instead of drafting it with one of your picks, you trade for it. So I would definitely lump it in. The one thing that will knock down the grade on the draft class for me is not taking a safety until the 7th round. I know Howie is a draft for talent and not positional need guy. And one thing I did say was with 4 day 1 and day 2 picks, what you can do is you can draft for talent in the first and 2nd round, and you still have other picks where you can address the need of edge rusher and safety. So as much as I like him drafting for talent and not need, I think he still could have done both and also gotten a safety earlier in the draft.
They had a chance at Quinyon Mitchell's boy, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, in the 2nd round, and they went with Eli Stowers, and I tweeted that I'd be comfortable going back-to-back years with 2nd-round safety and making that investment to get McNeil Warren, who might help you even more so than Eli Stowers right away. But if Eli Stowers hits, that's going to be a big-time 2nd-round draft.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to knock it down a bit for not getting a safety until the 7th round. But all of the picks that Howie did make, I mean, all of these guys look tremendous. He even did something he likes to do sometimes, which is, late in the draft somebody just off of pure raw talent. Another guy who hasn't even played football before, U.R. Bernard, who's just an absolute freak of nature. He's larger than Myles Garrett, and he's faster than Myles Garrett. He only has 6% body fat at the defensive tackle position. A guy I am really excited to see if he can pan out. Mekhi Lemon, great pick. Eli Stowers, great pick. Markel Bell, great pick. I'll give this draft class for Howie, I'll give it an A-.
Yeah, and an A-, that's absolutely crazy before we see any of these guys if they work out exactly or not.
Well, you're asking me to give a grade, so obviously I'm going to give a grade based on, if you're saying it's too early to give a grade, then don't ask for a grade. But if I'm giving a grade based on, my confidence in these picks working out, then that's the grade. But if you're going to say, well, it's too early to really grade these guys, then
I'm just saying,
really
an A. Yeah, an A is, I kind of expected an A from you. I'll give it a B. I think it's a lot of talent in the draft class. We always have to figure out.
Not even A-.
An A-.
That's not quite an A, now is it?
Yeah,
an A's above an A-.
Yeah, just an A on there for any draft class, I feel like, is pretty crazy. But there was a lot of talent that got added to the overall NFC East landscape, and that was with all those Ohio State defenders now, with the Eagles having talent too. With the Eagles having a lot of talent that they brought in, and a lot of it being to help the passing game, they now have to deal with Sonny Styles, 6'5", 240, runs a 4'3" in the middle of the Giants defense. That the Giants defense is actually already pretty good. Now Caleb Downs as well. That was a fantastic, really good draft pick from the Dallas Cowboys. Arguably the best player in the draft. So I hated that. I thought if he slipped that far and the safety was a positional V, that would be the one guy that the Eagles would actually move up for. And they made a trade with the Cowboys, but that wasn't a move that the Cowboys were going to allow the Eagles to come up to do. And I don't think Howard Roseman was aggressive enough to pursue that trade, which why that obviously didn't happen. But as for just the overall NFC East, it's funny because a lot of people love the Giants draft picks, but also the Giants draft picks, they went with... The Giants keep drafting twice in the first round, even 3 times, every single year it almost feels like. Like, literally, they've done it like numerous times over the past decade. And they went back into the well pool of drafting a tackle and an edge rusher, where the last time they did that was Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal, and they both are not living up to the 5th and 7th overall picks, 5th and 7th overall picks in the draft. They go back and do it with one being a 5th pick and a 10th pick, and people love it. And it honestly was, I mean, getting Arvell Reese at pick 5 and then getting the second or first best tackle, there was a split. It was like a pick-em line between where it was going to get drafted and who liked who. But you get the second best tackle at minimum in the draft, and you get arguably the best edge rusher in the draft. That was a pretty good move from the Giants, and I feel better about that situation than Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau. The Cowboys get a guy in the trade back with the Eagles at 23 and Malachi Lawrence, who is pretty good. Their position coach actually worked with, coached at UCF last year, so that was the connection there. And Christian Parker, former Eagles defensive back coach, is now the defensive coordinator, so he gets a guy. A lot of people thought he got drafted a little bit high, but when you get Caleb Downs and you add 2 pieces to the defense, they're starting to shape out. So a lot of overall talent, and then Sonny Styles in the middle of the Washington defense now. Excuse me, I said he was in front. I said Sonny Styles. I said Sonny Styles was on Giants, but you get Arvell Reese, who's also off ball. So you get Sonny Styles in the middle of the Washington defense. They're so old. They finally have a quarterback of their defense that can grow with Jaden Daniels. That's a really good, just like moving forward piece. And then you keep Bobby Wagner in the mix. That's a pretty good overall linebacking duo right away.
The NFC East overall, I think, had a fantastic draft, unfortunately, like you said. But the NFC East, I think if you look at which division won the draft, which division overall made the best selections, I think it's undoubtedly the NFC East. If you look at teams that I think had a poor draft, I mean, what are the Cleveland Browns doing with the quarterback position? I feel like they don't even know.
They drafted who was the quarterback? They got the Arkansas quarterback in the draft. That's gigantic. He might be a guy that switches positions. He's a little bit athletic. Deshaun Watson, there's rumors that he is somewhat
I forgot he's
coming back to his own a little bit. So
at the end of the day, they're still holding on to Dylan Gabriel.
Feel about how you feel about Deshaun Watson. The only thing I'll say about him is if he actually still does have talent, he's more talented than Shedeur Sanders is. So he would be your starting quarterback if he somewhat has shown flashes of what he used to be.
And then you got all these, you got all these other guys there. I don't even think they know what they're doing.
And Dylan Gabriel also in the mix as well.
But I want to get back to you or Bernard, because this is a guy I'm really excited about.
And he might get a call from the WWE if he doesn't work out, or he might go try to fight in MMA. I mean, he just looks like a dude where if the NFL doesn't work out, he's gonna go fight in MMA somehow, go get with a trainer and do that, or he's gonna figure out something in the sports realm world, because he's just like gonna be somebody where he has the unique background from his story and everything. And he's just somebody that has just like a real big selling point, I think, as an athlete, because he's just an absolute physical specimen.
Here's the way I look at it too, right?
But one thing I will say is I'm not throwing the greatest, arguably on pace to one day be what we consider not only of this generation, but of all time, the greatest pass rusher of all time. I am not going to start bringing up Myles Garrett's names with this guy until I see his hand in the dirt and him.
Listen, I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Myles Garrett. I'm just pointing out the literal facts. Literal fact, he is larger than Myles Garrett. He weighs more than him. Literal fact, he ran a faster 40.
Is insane. That's honestly
literal
wild.
fact, he ran a faster 40-yard dash than Myles Garrett. So I'm not saying, hey, listen, he's going to be as good as Myles Garrett, but I'm saying he is larger and faster than a guy we perceive to be the largest, fastest pass rusher. So the fact that he tops him in those two categories. Now, here's the thing. Being that he's never played football before, that tells us two things. One, we don't know if he's going to be good at football, right? But two, we don't know what his weaknesses are in football. He could end up not having a single goddamn weakness. We don't know. He could also end up being terrible at football. But my point being, it's not like a guy you take in the 7th round, typically with that, sort of raw talent. Oh, why'd that guy drop all the way to the 7th round? Well, because he's not good at doing this, he's not good at doing that, he's not good at doing that on the football field. He's more so just pure raw talent. He's never played football before, so we can't really say those things about him. He might not end up having any weaknesses on the football field.
He may never play an actual snap.
Yeah, and he may never actually play an actual snap. But my point being, we don't know for certainty that he has the weaknesses that typically come with somebody taken that late in the round.
Yeah, we also don't know if he can even get out of a stance with his hand in the dirt. So, with that being said, I think a lot of people see him in the interior being 300 pounds, but if you can actually teach him... I want to put him
on the edge, man. I'm going to put him on the edge.
The reason why I would put him on the edge is because I think there might be an easier learning curve to him developing football traits, as in if he's that fast and that strong, if he starts being able to dip his shoulder right away, he can get past NFL offensive tackles. And I think that's a bigger... People think edge rusher and defensive tackle are just as important as each other. It's literally 1A and 1AA. There's not a 1A, 1B. It's literally just like almost the exact same split. Maybe 50.5% edge rusher lean to a 49.5%. It's literally the same thing. That's why you see defensive tackles that are that talented go in the top 3 every year, or arguably number 1 overall, because that's how important they are. It's hard to be a defensive tackle, with that being said, an interior offensive lineman, especially with a lot of these guys that can't play on the tackle because they don't have athleticism as offensive linemen, that end up playing inside and then end up dominating. So that's when the Aaron Donalds of the world that are undersized can, start throwing people around, because that's how talented he is, but he also can line up outside. And I'm not throwing around Aaron Donalds and Myles Garrett's with this guy's name, but with the physical athlete that he could possibly be, I think there might be an easier learning curve path to him possibly getting just some random snaps off the edge and be able to figure out pass rushing specifically, because if you put a guy that's inexperienced like that in the middle of your defense, teams are just going to run the ball down his throat. He's just going to get double teamed. He's not going to be able to showcase his athleticism inside, because he's just going to have 6. There's also other crazy athletic dudes in the NFL as well, not to his caliber, but if you put 2 guys on him and he's not experienced in football, he's going to have issues getting out of his stance and leverage-wise to begin with, and then he's just going to have double teams just completely murking him down the field.
I like him better at edge rusher for two reasons. One, I think with his traits, to me, he looks more so fit to be an edge rusher than a defensive tackle. And 2, this is a team that has a bigger need at edge rusher. This is a team that usually likes to rotate in and out for guys at edge rusher. Right now, you have 3. You have Grenard, Nolan Smith, and Jalix Hunt. I think you have a good set of guys.
Who is Nolan Carroll?
You remember Nolan Carroll?
No, I do. I'm just drawing a blank. Why is he even who is that?
He was our starting corner for quite a few years.
Oh, yeah.
I just said Nolan Carroll. Anyway,
Nolan Carroll.
You look at the middle. You got some guys in the middle. You got Jordan Davis. You got Jalen Carter. You got Moro Ojomo, right? You don't need as many guys to rotate in the middle. And then also, I'm still not jumping ship on the Ty Robinson bandwagon yet. He could still work out. So I think, there's a bigger opportunity for him at defensive end, and I think he's more so cut out to be a defensive end.
Yeah, Ty Robinson hasn't shown me anything for me to believe or put any stock into him yet. And we'll see how much longer.
Even without Ty Robinson, I'd be happier with 4 guys rotating in and out at edge rusher.
Yeah,
and the other 3 guys I mentioned.
This dude's not even going to be considered in the pass rush rotation. He's going to have years of development, but once he gets to the spot of development where they feel comfortable with possibly giving him some live regular season NFL snaps, if this guy works out, they have a Brandon Graham in the system, possibly if he comes back on a short deal that can teach him a lot. So that could be a huge part.
And not only that, Brandon Graham is, kind of an inside-out guy, a guy who can take snaps in the middle of the field. I mean, he did it and won us a Super Bowl playing, taking a snap on the inside, a bigger, more physical edge rusher. So, yeah, Brandon Graham would be a great player for him to learn from. And knowing Brandon Graham, even if he doesn't return on the field, it wouldn't surprise me if he's
I think this has to do with, you talk about Stoutland University, and that no longer being a thing. On the other side of the ball, it's been underrated, their path of development. We talk about the lack there of development of a Ty Robinson, but the developments of Milton Williams and Moro Ojomo and what Milton Williams turned his NFL career into with that big contract, and Moro Ojomo possibly down the line, and their specific development of guys like that in their defensive line rotation over the years that are less valued guys than a day 2 pick's always a day 2 pick, but Moro Ojomo wasn't, and he developed into a really good player. So he obviously has football actual experience, but this is a guy where not only on top of that, they turned a player that never played football specifically before in Jordan Mailata into a good football player. So they're good at turning defensive linemen into pretty good players and developing them, and then a guy that's never played football. So you mix those two things together, and hopefully that could be the path for him.
Yeah, I am really, really excited to see what UR Bernard can do. But anyway, moving on now. We've got to talk about some NBA. We got to talk about some basketball. We got to talk about some hoops. We got to talk about some Philadelphia 76ers. After our last podcast, we watched game 1. We watched them get absolutely destroyed. It was a miserable game to watch. They were missing layups, missing open threes. Boston wasn't missing. Then game 2, now I flipped the script. Boston was missing a lot of threes. It seemed like the Sixers couldn't miss. VJ Edgecombe especially. What a performance from him in game 2. And the Sixers took game 2. Now game 3 ended up being a close game that the Sixers lost. Some things went wrong. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this series.
Yeah, and as for the Sixers, they looked horrible in game 1. They just couldn't make a shot. And then out in game 2, their offense started to get going from 3, and nobody outside of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in game 2 had more than double-digit points, even though both those guys went off and just consistently go off as 2 of the best players in the league. So we have a tough time. Jason Tatum also closed out game 3 in Adeem Bona's face. So, just dealing with Jason Tatum, we will forever be, as Sixers fans, haunted by that trade.
Yeah.
It is what it is. There's nothing we can say about it. That dude has just turned into that. And then we also didn't draft Jaylen Brown, who's an absolute beast himself, and a very versatile player that plays 2 through 4 positions. He was a power forward at California in college, and a lot of people thought there would be a weird fit for him in the NBA. He's like the most prototypical type of forward that you would want in the NBA right now. So those 2 guys are absolute forces to deal with, and will always be, no matter who the pieces around the Celtics that they provide with, the Sam Hausers, the Peyton Pritchards, the Namus Quadas, go down the line, regardless of who's playing around those guys, the centric.
I thought it was Keita,
whatever.
Keita, no, that's it.
Besides,
you're right.
Outside of those guys there, it's always going to be around how do the Sixers stop Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Well,
and even with Joel Embiid, if he is in the fold, that's still not the direct path to stopping those guys. So that's what the issue. We see at times where Paul George, I just keep wanting to apologize for me saying I don't want him to be a Sixer any longer since the suspension really upset me. But since then, he's really, turned things around and everything. Yeah. And also with that being said, offensively, he's been great for the Sixers, and he's had his moments on defense, but he's also had the bad moments where he's literally just playing Dance Dance Revolution out there, and Jaylen Brown is just literally having him touch different twister spots and hitting an 18-foot mid-range jump shot on him, or Jason Tatum. And we've seen it so many times.
I want to get back to what you were talking about, because, a big issue in this series for the Philadelphia 76ers, which feels like such a common theme in the playoffs for us, one, we don't really have a role player or a guy off the bench who can just come out and hit big shots and put up points. And two, we're falling victim to that happening to us with the Peyton Pritchards of the world.
But I love,
and Quentin Grimes has done nothing this series.
I love Tyrese Maxey, and he has to take over for the Sixers to be successful. But he's not a true. He has high assist numbers, and he's a good playmaker, but he's not a true point guard facilitator. And it's his issue with getting those guys involved, because he'll go out there, and the game that they won, he dropped 29, and he hit those daggers at the end of the game, but he shot, 8 or 9 for 23 or 24?
Well,
he
had a rough first 3 quarters, and then really...
And Paul George also, sometimes when Paul George gets cooking and he starts to hit his mid-range and score from all 3 levels, he starts to forget about playmaking as well, and even just more so drive and dish, which they can open up the offense. VJ always tries to get that too, but when VJ gets going, then he just really starts heating up, and he just starts banging 6 or 7 threes. They don't have that true playmaker that can just consistently get Kelly Oubre and Quentin Grimes those shots that he needs. But Joel Embiid passing out of the post is an element to the offense that has always opened that up for the Sixers, and that's an element that they don't have right now.
Well, so Joel Embiid, he was a game-time decision for Friday night's game. Once again today, he's a game-time decision. He's going to see if he can warm up and then decide if he can play. Whether or not Joel Embiid plays tonight, really...
He's not going to play.
I mean, if he's a game-time decision, there is a possibility.
You just got to put the threat out there, but I don't think he's going to play. If he does...
Well,
it proves me wrong, but he's not going to play.
If he does play or if he doesn't play, I mean, that could dictate who wins not who wins the series, but that could dictate if the Sixers still have a chance in the series or not.
I agree,
if he doesn't play tonight, then there's a very, very good chance that the Sixers lose. Then you go down 3-1. The series is over. But if he does play, there's a legitimate chance they win this game tonight, and then you have a 2-2 series.
I think we would still probably see a Dean Bona, because I just said then there's a good chance we don't see him. But he's been so up and down, where the flashes on defense where he's able to go up and look like a prime Serge Ibaka and block shots and make that happen. There's a little bit of lack of rebounding, which kind of limits them at that position. But there's also plays where he's just running down the lane just completely recklessly in transition with the ball in his hands, not kicking out to his shooters and creating offensive fouls that just completely stunt them getting out on the run. So Adem Bona, I like his future as a Sixer, but he needs a lot more development for being thrust into this role versus a team like the Boston Celtics with so much championship experience. I mean, this is just a little bit too overwhelming for him. But maybe in tempered minutes, he could be a little bit more effective if Joel Embiid's able to come back. But Joel's still not going to be able to just go a full-on 38-minute load out of nowhere. I think maybe 30, and then you still see Drummond. And Drummond's starting to make things happen versus Nikola Vucevic.
Drummond's looking good out there. And
Nikola Vucevic.
Drummond's hitting threes. Man.
Yeah, but I thought when we said on the last podcast, I thought Nikola Vucevic was a path along with Sam Hauser, which they tortured Sam Hauser in that win on the perimeter. And Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser need to be those perimeter guys that get forced into every defensive action. The Sixers never have done that enough, and that's why I hated Doc Rivers in his time here, and I think Nick Nurse can do a little better job himself of it. They need to attack the teams attack the weaknesses of the Sixers. They need to be more minded like that, and that's where they need to temper their offense towards not just running pick and roll to put these guys in pick and rolls, but just straight up. You see Jaylen Brown just one-on-one without a pick and roll situation, just cooking perimeter defenders on the Sixers. They need to get Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard in switches to be able to navigate that a little bit as well. But I thought Nikola Vucevic played pretty well in Game 1 with the perimeter. He was forcing Andre Drummond out to the perimeter, and the Celtics were hitting a lot of perimeter shots to make that happen and to keep it consistent like that. But I think as the series has went on, Nikola Vucevic has been able to do hasn't been able to do a good job of rebounding and just being a true interior center. And when he matches up with Andre Drummond's really been beating him up in that department.
Well, I mean, listen, Andre Drummond, one thing you got to remember about him, he's still only, 31 years old? Yeah. Andre Drummond is still a very, very capable NBA center. He's not as far removed from his prime as some people might think. So, you look at a guy like Andre Drummond, yeah, of course he can match up with Vucevic. Andre Drummond is the real deal, and now he can shoot threes. He had another two.
And I want to talk on another.
Wait,
thing.
let me pull up one thing. How many rebounds?
I
did
want to talk
Andre
about this
Drummond
real
have?
quick. Nikola Vucevic has been getting out rebounded by VJ Edgecombe. And I know he played 17 and 18 minutes first 2 games.
Yeah, Edgecombe's been
In the
grabbing
third
boards.
game, he played 31 minutes in the last game when the Celtics won, and VJ Edgecombe had 10 rebounds to his 6. So I know he's not out there. Queta is also a big part of what they have going on at the center position. They've been using that Walsh dude, number 27, as well. But the Sixers, VJ Edgecombe's out there doing all the dirty work as the 3rd overall lottery pick from this past draft. And I know that we put Kelly Oubre in years past and sometimes now, and we also do it with Paul George, which he's been up and down in this department, but as on-ball defenders. But these 6'7", with the fucking meme, 6'7", I just wanted to get that out there. I just had a brain fart moment. It's just a brain rot moment for you right there. But these 6'7" guys, like truly, these guys out here are the guys that need to help the Sixers in the rebounding department without Joel Embiid. And even Joel Embiid hasn't been the best rebounder in the past couple of seasons himself. And VJ Edgecombe, like I said, as a 3rd overall lottery draft pick, is the one doing all the dirty work as the combo guard rebounding the ball. So people need to help out Andre Drummond and VJ Edgecombe in the rebounding department.
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
also falls on Quentin Grimes, too.
I mean, absolutely, they need help in the rebound department. Now, speaking of VJ Edgecombe, I hate to say, I think because I think VJ Edgecombe is the ultimate X factor in this series for the 76ers. He's the guy who put up the most points in the Game 2 victory. But man, he had a bad shooting night on Friday.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and
it was
that
also
really hurt
coming.
the Sixers.
Tyrese Maxey keeps shooting the ball. That's why we love Tyrese Maxey, and that's what led to them in Game 2 winning after he was a little bit dry and ice cold for a while. VJ Edgecombe was coming off a 7-point three-pointer performance in the last game, and they need that element to their offense, and he's thrust into that role now already as a rookie where he needs to provide consistently in the playoffs, which I'm not going to hold him to it and be mad about him if he doesn't live up to it.
No,
but he's
but it's
also
just something to
expected.
point out.
He's also truly expected to fill in that role, so that's what
But
they're asking
but that's your point. Is you're asking a ton from a rookie.
Yeah, but that's what this team needs. So I'm not going to be mad when it doesn't happen, but when Paul George doesn't do it, I'm mad. When Tyrese Maxey doesn't do it,
Paul
I'm
George,
mad.
you've been in the league for many years.
When
You're
Quentin
getting paid a max
Grimes doesn't show up
contract.
knowing that
Tyrese Maxey, you're pretty much a veteran at this point. You're getting paid a max contract. You guys need to be able to get it done. Edgecombe, if he doesn't get it done, he's excused. He's a rookie, but we do need him to get it done. You're absolutely right.
And Justin Edwards actually has been pretty decent in like those fill-in.
Justin Edwards hasn't been too bad, and so neither has Oubre. I think the one role player I'm the most mad at is Quentin Grimes. I think
Oubre can be a little bit more consistent because in years past he's been more consistent from 3 to help us out.
But he's hit some.
Offense,
He's hit some big shots.
I think he needs to rebound a little bit more if we want to look at his rebounding stats. So.
Well, pull up Andre Drummond's real fast because I want to see
10 a clip every game.
Well, I want to see the exact numbers. Pull them up real quick.
It's like 10 a clip every
because we placed a bet in game 1 with Andre Drummond that didn't hit, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it would have hit in games 2 and 3.
But also was like the past 2
So
games were a lot closer than.
I just want to verify that.
It's like 8, 6, and 5. 5, 8, and 6.
So
26 per the last.
So
but he's been shooting. I mean, he's 4 for 4 in game 2 and 5 for 6 from game 3, and hasn't missed a 3 in the past 2 games. So I will never put stock in Andre Drummond consistently hitting threes, but right now
it's not a bad bet though.
If Kelly Oubre,
Let me check the market. Let's check the market. But yeah, so I mean, assuming Embiid doesn't play tonight, what is your confidence level the Sixers can keep this series alive in Philly tonight?
Well, they'll go down 3-1 if they lose tonight in Philadelphia. I feel good about them being at home. I think it produces a little bit different energy. I think around this time of year, if we can just do an overall Philadelphia sports topic, is around this time of year, Philadelphia sports fans, with the success of the Flyers that we haven't seen in the past, and the Sixers actually winning a game in this series so far and having the third overall pick, and it's not just the Joel Embiid show anymore. We transitioned from that time period, and it's just a cherry on top for him to play now. I think a lot of people feel pretty good about the direction of the Sixers, and it's not just that dry path before where it's like, is Joel going to play, and he's our star player, and that's all we have going on. So I think with that being said, they might have an even bigger turnout as far as getting people out to the Xfinity Mobile Arena, and I think that could play into their hand of having a lot of fans that are out there. It's not just a regular like playoff series either. It's also a playoff series where they're playing against their arch rivals in the Boston Celtics, where the energy that I just said transitioning from the Flyers to them is based off of them whooping the Pittsburgh Penguins' ass, their arch rivals. So I think that just gets Philadelphia sports fans overall riled up a little bit more, and I think that can play into their hand. And we'll see if they can, get the little extra free throws just based off of text that they can, because that's not only that just sounds very generalistic to say, but Joe Mazzulla is a known psycho. The Boston Celtics coach is a known psycho, and maybe we can get him in a Denzel Crocker, Fairly Odd Parents type moment to freak out on the court if we can put him in that situation.
We need Corey Brewer out there.
Maybe we can get some Jaylen Brown's hair paint dripping down his face and get him to get a tech while that's happening and just cause
or maybe
mass hysteria.
He can get ejected for elbowing somebody in the nuts like James Harden did a couple of years ago. Just saying. But yeah, I mean. Tonight's a pivotal night, I think, for the Philadelphia 76ers as an organization, because if you lose, the series is pretty much over. You've lost in the first round. Now it's really time to move on from the Joel Embiids, from the Paul Georges, and really rebuild around Maxey and Edgecombe. If you win tonight, then this series is still alive. Then this playoff run is still alive. Then this nucleus is still alive, at least for another night. So I think tonight's a pivotal night. My confidence level that the Sixers can win, I would say, is quite low. I give them a 30% chance of winning this game. I don't think they're going to win. If Embiid plays, I give it a 55% chance they win. But
you'll see if the Dante Sports Index is close to what the Sixers have as their sports index. You said 30%? 37.4% chance. And if this was on the road, that would probably look like 12.6% chance. Yeah. And I think that was what game one was. Wasn't it like 88 to 12% when we looked at the sports index before game one on the last podcast? If I pull up just like the box score, if we pull up the box score, I mean, they didn't, like, power forwards, Trendon Watford, Dominic Barlow didn't even touch the court in Game 3, and Justin Edwards is now filling in that combo forward role right now, and they're just going 8 guys.
Grimes only had 15 minutes off the bench.
They got 8 guys in the rotation right now, and that's kind of like how they're going to keep it. The funny part was when Tyrese Maxey, after their win in Game 2, he specifically name-dropped Trendon Watford as the guy that was hyping him up to get going, which I thought was like pretty crazy and pretty funny, yeah. Like, you never know, like behind the circles we were like, oh, Trendon Watford sucks, we don't care about him, cut him off the team, and then he's met Tyrese Maxey's behind the scenes best friend, and he's hyping him up and like coaching him through stuff. And we know for a fact Kyle Lowry is like an extension of a coach off the bench, and that's the role that he's playing to get VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey to continually go. And we see the facial expressions of Joel on the bench when he's out, when he's on the bench, and Kyle Lowry, and like how they react. And like when VJ Edgecombe completely completely airballed a 3 at a huge spot in the game the other day. Yeah, you saw the reaction on the bench. They cut to it, and it was like, that's the third overall 20-year-old rookie. Like, if that's Paul George, like, yeah, there's probably, a lot more dramatic.
Pretty bad miss from 3 too. If I
but like that just shows the progression and just how like they're ushering along this guy, and this team feels very connected than years past. So yeah. I think that emotional energy.
No, the vibes are there. I will say this: the vibes.
And how much do you think that index has to do with like the actual potential of Joel Embiid playing? Because I don't think he's going to play.
Yeah, if he's officially ruled out, that number is going to drop. Because I was looking at the line on Friday, and all throughout,
Well, they've been playing a lot more competitively.
all throughout the days leading up, and during that day, it was -7.5 Celtics, and then when Embiid was officially ruled out, it was
He's
-9
listed as doubtful.
Celtics. So and right now it's -7.5 Celtics. If he's officially ruled out, that line is going to shift. That index is going to shift.
Yeah, but
so
they've
that
also
index
been playing-
might shift down to what I'm saying, closer to 30%.
I think a lot of it also has to do with like the Sixers just being more competitive overall, but they just think the Celtics are just going to outright win. He's doubtful, so there's a very good chance we don't see him on the court, but if he does, and
He's played in games he was listed as doubtful before though, so I'm not completely ruling it out.
I would rather, even if they lose today, I'd rather just see him get completely healthy and come back for Game 5 as opposed to trying to force a Game 4, and then if it flares up, then we just don't see him for the rest of the series.
Well,
and just
I
take
mean,
him
if he
out.
doesn't play tonight and they lose, what good is bringing him back for Game 5? So
I think just like his dynamic as to how good he is as a player is the ceiling. If you get him back in like the fullest, healthiest form that you can, that's like exactly what you need to have going on. But for the Sixers, for the rest of the series, I mean, it's going to come down to their offense. They got 8 guys in the rotation right now. A lot of guys don't show up on offense. There's only certain ways for certain paths for guys to score, and I'll still say the only path for Andre Drummond to score is inside. And we're not going to rely on him outside, but he has been adding some threes into the repertoire. Adem Bona is one of the most offensively limited players on the Sixers roster and in the entire NBA playoffs right now, so you can't expect much from him.
well, no, he's not an offensive guy, you know.
I'm just painting the picture for you. So Justin Edwards kind of comes in, maybe gives you 6 to 8 points and some spots for Paul George, but if Paul George and VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey can't really produce on offense, and maybe Kelly Oubre can get in the mix there, I mean, it's going to be a tough time to hang with this Celtics team. One path is if they can keep these other role players outside of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in check, as long as you don't give up 40 to both of those guys. I mean, you could find yourself having a chance even if they both drop 30, because that's kind of what happened in the last game. They were both still really effective, even though Jason Tatum wasn't as efficient, but Jaylen Brown was going. He had a 30-plus.
Jaylen Brown's been killing them all series. I mean, even in the
killing
game
them
that
his entire career.
Yeah,
I mean,
even in the game that they won, I mean, he was hitting some impossible 3-point shots down the stretch. So, Jaylen.
And when Joel comes back, under 20 points from Joel can still maybe get the job done if there's a little bit more of a defensive focus inside and he can alter some inside
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Joel Embiid makes a huge impact on
that's still the issue with Kata. I mean, Kata just runs down the lane and just dunks on anything in sight on the Sixers side of the ball, regardless of Andre Drummond's down there or who's down there. So, I mean, I wish Adem Bona could play like Kata. Like, I wish that's just what we had, because I think the Sixers would have a pretty good shot if that was the case, and that's the player that he can grow into. But VJ Edgecombe, we can't expect much. It's really going to come down to Tyrese and Paul George being the consistent guys, and then if VJ can give you those extra, get over that 15-point threshold and be consistent with that.
I think even though it's unfair to ask of it as a rookie, I think VJ Edgecombe has to perform in order for us to win, because we're talking about going up against the Boston Celtics. It's not like, if we were like the 2 seed going up against like a 7 seed. Like, it's not like we're in a playoff series, let's say hypothetically against the Magic, where we could say, all right, well, VJ's a rookie, you can't really ask that much from him. You just need Tyrese Maxey and Paul George to do their thing, and then you can win the series. No, we're going up against the Boston Celtics. Paul George and Tyrese Maxey doing their things, it's not going to be enough, because it's the Boston Celtics. We need even more. We need VJ Edgecombe to perform in order to win these games, in order to win the series. And although it's unfair to ask that much of him, we're going up against the Celtics, so we need it from him. But I do want to now talk about a team that looks like they are going to win their first round series. A team that the city is more so behind right now than the Philadelphia 76ers, and that's the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, up 3-1 in the series. Lost 4-2. We talked about Sidney Crosby getting going with a goal and assist last night. It is what it is. You're not going to shut down arguably the best player of the generation for that long. It is. And you also have another top 5, top 10 player of the generation, Evgeny Malkin, and when he gets going, he's also been doing a lot of dirty stuff in the series to try and get in the Flyers' minds and just mucking it up a little bit. There was the infamous Philadelphia sports pitcher that just came out and dropped outside of all the Makai Lemon memes and all that stuff has been that penalty box of the Flyers. All those guys in there and them all celebrating and everything. So they've also been having defensemen score in the series. Their first game one, they had two defensemen score.
It's been a mix of everyone. It hasn't been just like
one of their younger players was one of the goals that they actually got in Denver Barkey, who has that's a great Philadelphia sports name. Shout out to Recliner Media, Denver-based for the podcast. But Denver Barkey, young Flyer, scored last night of one of their goals. And there's we talk about there is guys that they have to rely on for the Flyers, the Owen Tippett's of the world and the Travis Konechny's, but they also have been getting so much production from everybody this year as to my phone charger falls out and scares everybody on the podcast out of here. But they have been getting production from so many different guys. They're also in a situation where Porter Martone in less than 15 career NHL games at 19 years old playing college hockey. He's one of the
biggest contributors.
No, but what I'm saying is, you want to say we can't rely on VJ Edgecombe, as in we can't expect that. We're talking about a dude that was playing college hockey 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We can't. But he's also played professional as well as VJ Edgecombe in the Bahamas scene for international professional league teams. You know what I mean? So we can have to, and we do have to. And Matvei Michkov, in his first couple of playoff games, we have to rely on these guys. The Trevor Zegras of the world, who's doesn't have too much. I think they said before the series there was 11 Flyers making their playoff debut, and that's they're relying on just over 20 plus guys in the entire.
Well, yeah, I mean they haven't been in the playoffs since 2016. So pretty much anyone on the Flyers with playoff experience has had that playoff experience.
I just think that's funny because the last playoff team that we saw from the Flyers was Claude Giroux based, whereas they held on to Claude Giroux for so long as a franchise player, and that was the staple keeping them going as having playoff experience with a guy like that in the fold forever. So. The Flyers, they're a young, youthful team. Even Vladar, as a career backup goalie, we can't expect him to go out there and just have a 95% save percentage in every game versus all-time players like Chris Letang and Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby. So, yeah, and I think they've. I don't like how I think the past couple of games. I don't know if it's been every single game for the Flyers, but a trend is they keep giving up the first power play opportunity to begin the game, and that's not normally what a team that's up 3-1 in the series continues to do. So
well, and not only that, I mean, I feel like their power play success rate hasn't been the greatest either themselves. They had a 4-on-3. That they didn't capitalize on, and I want to say it was game 2 or 3, but I mean this is just a young team with a lot of heart, just really taking it to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And we're just terrorizing the city of Pittsburgh, and I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely not the situation that the Pittsburgh Penguins expected to find themselves in, but we talked about before they haven't won a playoff series since 2018, so. It kind of maybe was feeling like maybe a Mike Trout, Sidney Crosby type situation until Mike Trout got going in the MLB season this year, as in we know it's Sidney Crosby, we know it's Mike Trout, but we're not, it's not the same hit as 2018, but I don't know. The Penguins are also dangerous, and we don't want an all-time bad Philadelphia sports moment to somehow start progressing, because things could get interesting if the Flyers do lose this game. I will admit, I will not feel good about if the Penguins start to build momentum, because last game wasn't really that much out of question. That might have been the most, the Flyers have really dominated it at certain parts and periods of the series, but overall for the game, you could argue that was the most dominant performance we've seen on either side as an overall game for 60 minutes of what the Penguins were able to do in Game 4.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but I mean, if you compare NHL to, the NBA or the MLB, the NHL is the only sport where teams actually do come back from down 3-0.
And also,
never seen it in the NBA.
Guys...
I can't really think of an example in the MLB, but I think it's happened 6 times in the NHL. It's not impossible.
Yeah, and that's also where you'll get penalized in another sport and lose your best player, if that's the guy or whoever the guy is, the role player for probably the entire series, maybe the next series if you move on, if someone gets punched in the face or elbowed, and you're allowed to just lose some minutes inside the game and just go out and have full-on brawls and just make it completely ugly out there. You can't even do that in football.
Yeah.
And that's what you can do in hockey. And we see, there's always and they're relying on a lot of guys, the deeper lines of the rotation to provide that. But as for the Flyers moving forward for this series, I think they just really have to shut down. We can't let these guys get going for the Penguins offense. I think I'm not really impressed by their goaltending. I think the Flyers offense just making it ugly, even though they're not a team that during the regular season got a lot of shots on net. But we saw they had 2 shots on net in game 2 in the first period, and then they scored 2 goals in the second period right after that. So they don't need a lot of shots on net, and they've been stopping the Penguins from having a lot of opportunities. But
and not only that, they've also gone through spurts where they're just pouring it on offensively. I think it was game 3 where they scored 3 goals in 6 minutes of playing time.
Yeah.
And then you look at the game 1 victory. They scored those 2 goals kind of close to each other in the third period that got them the win. So I mean, this is a team where,
and then I think they allowed the first goal the other night where they were trying to make a lane. Actually, they were down in a power play situation, down a man, and then a stick broke on the ice and had to usher that guy off the ice to get a stick real quick. Down 2 men, and then they get scored on in the power play. So that's not Vladar's issue at all. When you're,
Vladar's been great, man.
When you're having to, that's just a freak situation. Yeah. But that's the type of things that can happen in hockey where you have to always be on the gas pedal and be ready to go. And there's just momentum based in any sport. I mean, we're talking about almost arguably the number 1 sport of momentum-based stuff where the Penguins can be getting their ass kicked all game 1, 3-1, and then score a goal with a minute left and then have a one-on-one situation to tie the game up with 5 seconds left in the game after getting dominated pretty much the entire game. So I think the Flyers in good shape. I predicted it would go get 5 games and the Flyers would finish it out then and lose game 4, and that's what's on pace right now. So we'll see if that's what
and as Chance the Rapper would say, let's do that hockey. But now,
I don't want to reference Chance the Rapper as the last thing for the Flyers because I feel like he's one of the biggest fall-offs in the music industry, and I don't want to have a big series fall-off. And I don't want to have a gigantic series fall-off from a 3-1 lead in that. So that's what I had to come in and just,
All right. Well, anyway, we've talked about a very successful Philly team. We've talked about a Philly team that they're about to disappoint us. Although we didn't have high expectations to begin with, we're talking about a team that's exceeding expectations. Now let's talk about a team that is so far below expectations, just absolutely putrid, worst record in baseball, the Philadelphia Phillies.
I just pulled up my Instagram real quick to check something.
Dude, Mike Trout's killing it this year.
Should have made that trade, last offseason if it was possible to happen. And then that's not happening. He's never leaving the Angels now with this resurgence. And I don't think there's a reason for him to even leave the Angels. But outfield, this is the first time where maybe the outfield is not the issue for the Phillies, even though Adolis Garcia hasn't been the exact player that we're expecting.
Right now, it's been the pitching. I mean, if you look at the game the other day, right, if you would have told me, the Phillies are in a huge losing streak, but they're about to go play a game where they put up 7 runs with their ace on the mound, the bullpen only allows 1 run, I would think, oh, okay, good, they're going to win that game. No! They still couldn't win because even Christopher Sanchez had an awful outing. The pitching right now has just been so bad. The hitting actually hasn't been that bad.
In the past, I was trying to let you go for a second. I want to cut in, but you're pigeonholing it to the past couple games because overall the offense for the season has sucked. And the pitching has sucked
I would say the past 5 games or so. It's really been
we talked about the floodgates kind of get closed a little bit when Christopher Sanchez lets guys on base, and that just hasn't been the case. He just got tattooed himself, the offense, Bryce is, the normal things that people like to complain about, the outfield and Bryce not showing up to be the guy.
Harper had 4 ribbies last night. Schwarber's hitting
I was just about to say, I'm not giving Schwarber credit for that triple whatsoever. That's just a
I didn't say the triple. I said he's been hitting bombs. He's been hitting home runs. No.
Yeah, that's what he does. But as overall, I'm still a little upset with his overall batting, but he is the power threat up for a team that lacks power threat.
Felix Reyes has been a small bright spot, but
a lot of people around the league think Felix Reyes being the cleanup guy, which I like the idea of thinking about, like getting a guy an opportunity mid-season when you need a spark, but a lot of the people think with that even being a situation for them in the four-hole that Dave Dombrowski is in the running for having the worst GM season of any.
Oh, awful! And then he goes out, and he says, "We don't have a real cleanup hitter." Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? That's your fault. That is absolutely your fault.
Yeah, but I will say is too, if it does mean that
because you cling on to Alec Boehm.
We talked about before, Adolis Garcia is a true 5, so we never thought even with that addition he was the 4. So maybe that's what he's trying to direct it as, but you've held on to Alec Boehm and Bryson Stott. Bryson Stott was like trying to be the leadoff guy and the 5 guy, like for how long? And it's just like these important spots in the lineup just don't work. Justin Crawford is also, as a rookie, tailed off a little bit, so that's been a little depressing in the offense, but yeah, we didn't expect him to just consistently hit 300 for the entire year. But Rafael Marchand, although he's been a little bit more productive recently, and Garrett Stubbs has been decent, they still have Rafael Marchand and Garrett Stubbs as their catchers to start the season.
Here's the thing with the Phillies offense. When you look at who they have on paper, they have some legit hitters. They have some guys who are hitting well, you know what I mean? Like outside of Harper doing his thing and Schwarber hitting home runs, you look at Brandon Marsh, who's having a really good year so far. You look at Justin Crawford, who's been hitting well in the 9-hole. You know, they got some guys who are doing well. The issue is you hit that huge lull in your lineup where you have Adolis Garcia and Alec Boehm and Bryson Stott, guys who do absolutely nothing. So even if you have guys in the rest of the lineup who are hitting well, once you hit that lull, once you hit that like 5 through 8, that's going to do nothing, it makes it really difficult for your offense to produce.
I wasn't even trying to be negative the other day, and I was so focused on NFL draft where it's been like almost overwhelming recently with NBA, now covering the Flyers even more than I have. Like NBA, NHL playoffs, I had so much going on. So I was just like, I'm not going to sit here on a Thursday afternoon and be mad about the Phillies during this losing streak and have it ruin my day. And what happened was they got into a really competitive game, and I thought they had a chance to possibly win the game, and it comes up to a huge spot where they have to pinch run for Felix Reyes in the 4-hole, and Dylan Moore comes off the bench in the 4-hole. Then he comes up later on in the game.
Then he came up in a crucial spot. It was runner on third, 1 out, and now you have Dylan Moore up.
He hasn't gotten a hit this season. He has a 0 batting average.
I was trying to fight his Topper. I realized that Topper's going to be gone. Next month.
I put those two things together, as in I realized that in the moment and tweeted it or posted it, whatever. Is it still real quickly? Tweets are still tweets, right?
Yeah.
On X.
Nobody calls it a Z.
Yeah. So
if you call it a Z, you go fuck off.
So I tweeted it and posted online, and then when I went back to go be fuming about the Phillies randomly, when I thought about it and look at Rafael Marchand's batting average, and I selected the highest batting averages on ESPN to categorize and show me the file of that, and I saw Dylan Moore with 0 batting average. I'm like, dude, this dude was in the 4-hole.
He should not be up in the big leagues at all.
And you know what I hate too is when you spiral all this down the line and we think about situations where this could be a PTSD flashback. This is versus a team in the Cubs where we could see them in the playoffs. And you get a first
We're not going to the playoffs. The playoffs are...
we have the worst record
unless they fire Rob Thompson and the new manager comes in...
I know you haven't been as critical...
what Rob Thompson did in 2022 and they turn it around. Unless that happens, this team is not going to the playoffs.
And you haven't been as critical as Rob Thompson, although I'm not saying you haven't been, but I've been actually calling for his job. You haven't gotten to that point, but
I'm at that
now
point.
with Don
Mattingly,
Don Mattingly's son obviously has a more prominent role in the organization than Don Mattingly himself, but we saw everybody talks about Nick Sirianni and the Eagles ushering in a guy that could be the plant for the next pivot in their organization. Is Don Mattingly that guy for the Phillies that could potentially be moved on to? Because the last time the Phillies made a move was who? The guy that was next up in the organization and Rob Thompson when they moved on from Joe Girardi.
Yeah, listen, I don't know who needs to take over as manager. I just know it should not be Rob Thompson.
Or more so, even Don Mattingly as like
Thompson's.
Kevin Long replacement, because I know
Rob Thompson needs to go. Alec Boehm needs to go. Bryson Stott needs to go. If those three go and they're replaced with competent people, then yeah, this team can make.
You know
the
who
playoffs.
started balling again too?
Who?
Nolan Arenado has been cooking recently too, and he's just like buried in that Diamondbacks lineup, and those are the teams that, like, the Diamondbacks have a lot of good talent. That's PTSD for us bringing up the Diamondbacks, but they literally got to a World Series more recently than us and beat us to get there. I really like the players that they have as their, like, nucleus core, and if they add to it, they can be really scary. But they're one of those teams where they have guys there, young guys that are talented, but, like, hey, we'll add a veteran all-time guy at his position and just roll with it, and we'll be successful in doing that. And that's not the type of moves that the Phillies won't give up Alec Boehm for a Eugenio Suarez or for a Nolan Arenado or to get a Paul Goldschmidt in the system. They're just like, oh, we need the young, we need to find a different way to add to the roster, and it just hasn't worked in different departments that they try to add to the roster. So, I mean,
yeah, nobody they've really added has ever worked out when you look at Adolis Garcia and Max Kepler.
I really like Adolis Garcia as a defensive player.
Who was the guy the year before Max Kepler? I forget. I'm blanking on his name.
The infielder.
Yeah. Oh, Whit Merrifield.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was awful. I mean, any guy they try and bring in, it just
but these are also guys where like they're not like Paul Goldschmidt though. It's not like though. It's not like.
But Adolis Garcia, when you look at his career, it is a step above Max Kepler or Whit Merrifield. Adolis Garcia has a legitimate resume to his name.
But they need to go out and like make a serious move like that. Especially Bryce is playing his best baseball. He's cooking right now.
He's cooking, man.
And when he comes up now, it's like that must-watch baseball where it has always been as him as a Philly, but he's actually playing really well. Kyle Schwarber, like the batting average for like maybe has to take some pain off him, and he can be the true 4-hole hitter if you can actually get someone at the top of the lineup.
Harper's batting .270, 6 home runs, 18 ribbies.
Trey Turner hasn't been.
He's got an on-base percentage of .357 and OPS of .877, which is a higher OPS than what he had last year. You know,
and what do you think about Trey Turner just having like? It just looks like there's like this complete sap to power in his bat. Like he's just not. And I don't think the World Baseball Classic
I think Trey Turner's best years are most certainly behind him at this point. He is no longer the guy he used to be. Last year and the year before he still hit for a high average. So I think he'll eventually start
stolen bases right now.
I think he'll start.
Crazy.
I think he'll start getting knocks again, but I don't see him having that.
I think he's still a really good player. I still really like him for this lineup. They just need to start, like, these guys just don't do, like, Justin Crawford, I think, stole a base to get them in scoring position from first to second in a big spot last night, but they don't, like, you got Justin Crawford. Bryson Stott, maybe the best thing Bryson Stott, besides being a defender, the best thing he does on offense is him as a base runner, probably being, like, literally running the bases and stealing, so... You need to start getting these guys to do what they're good at.
Yeah.
And putting Kyle Schwarber in a spot where he needs to, a normal spot where he needs to bat as an overall, like, good baseball, like, offensive player. I'm not trying to, I mean, that came out completely wrong because he's one of the best offensive players in the league. But as a complete overall offensive player, he's not a Yordan Alvarez, like, where he can do everything on a baseball field. So asking him to do that, I think his best suited thing would be in the 4-hole. Asking Adolis Garcia to be a 4-hole hitter, and he's not. You need to start getting these guys in the roles that actually bring the best out of them.
Yeah. And
it seems like right now
Rob Thompson is not doing that, so we need a new manager.
And it seems like the only guy that's like, living up to the role that he's in is like Bryce Harper, like in that spot in the order. And the 9-hole is an issue. I mean, they had Justin Crawford now, but now with the catcher issues, Rafael Marchand.
You gotta keep no matter what. I think it's a mistake to take Crawford out of the 9-hole. Yeah, they have been putting the catcher in the 9-hole, which I think Crawford. I like Crawford in the 9-hole because then you go Crawford, Turner, Schwarber, Harper. I think it's a mistake to switch that up. Thompson is just making a lot of mistakes. This team is awful.
Yeah, but you're also shortening at bats, and you're also like maybe a small percentage, but shortening at bats potentially for Justin Crawford.
Yeah,
to get more at bats to Rafael Marchand.
But that small percentage isn't worth not being able to go Crawford, Turner, Schwarber, Harper. I'd rather him miss a small percentage percentage of at bats and be able to have that, to have those 4 guys in a row. So I think Crawford belongs in the 9 hole.
And it's just a punch to the face where the Braves got back on track, and the Braves are like the best team in baseball. And I always talk about how much I like Ronald Acuna, but their best player so far this season is their catcher and Drake Baldwin that DHs for them, and he's just on an absolute tear, putting himself in the MVP race. Matt Olson has been getting back to being Matt Olson. Austin Riley has been murdering us, and he's back to being Austin Riley. Ozzy hit, a double last night to make things scary. I mean, I think that was in extras, too, after the Phillies exploded for 4 runs and finally won that game. So the Braves, not only, it's not like
they're looking great.
It's not only like, the Mets are doing bad and we're not really truly threatened this year by the Nationals or the Marlins, but the Braves could be back to being the Braves, and even better than that team that was just hitting home runs the past couple seasons that we beat in the playoffs. And we talked about before, can't expect to beat the Braves every single time we see them in the playoffs. And if we somehow make the playoffs this year, this would probably be the year that the Braves would absolutely smack us if this is the type of team that we're fielding, if we can get it back on track. But yeah, the Braves look like they're starting to be really scary. And like positions, when you see other teams filling positions and having positions be more productive than your positions at certain spots, it's just a real big punch in the face, because we can be like, oh, Bo Bichette, we don't even want him. He's not even really producing for the Mets. Arpiv and JT Realmuto that we gave $15 million per year for in 3 years. Great defensive catcher, a little up and down offensively, but we didn't do anything to provide behind him. And with him out on that contract money's being wasted right now with him not being able to be healthy. Taijuan Walker has finally left the Phillies, though.
Oh, yeah, that is the last thing we will talk about. I almost forgot to bring it up. Thank God the witch is dead. The witch is dead. One of the worst starting pitchers in Philadelphia Phillies history, Taijuan Walker, is finally out of the door. He leaves with a 9 ERA, 9.4, I think. Just absolutely horrible. He somehow had a really good season as a starter last year. He was really bad out of the bullpen. He was somehow really good as a starter last year. Outside of that, he's been absolutely awful. Just
they even tried to give him
and he's finally gone.
They tried to even, give him a bullpen start and just limited innings in his last outing, and he just the 4 runs he just gets tattooed again.
He's not even playable at this point.
I don't even think this has.
And I think it's what I find funny is you look at Zach Wheeler, a guy who came from the Mets, came here and really, really upped his career and became an elite ace. And then you look at Taijuan Walker, who came from the Mets, who was not too bad in New York, and then came here and just became absolute dog shit. And then you have Jesus Luzardo, who's kind of teetering in the middle of those two extreme examples. So
yeah, and I just thought with Taijuan Walker, I don't even think it has to do with him. Finally, that contract just winding down, and Andrew Painter being on the roster, Zach Wheeler coming back. Those are all just kind of coincidental timings, because this is just his baseball. It comes down to the number one reasoning for this, I think, is because his baseball, it has now come to the point where with how bad this team is, if you continue to throw him out there, you're just going to be the worst team in the league. And then what?
Well, they are the worst team.
And if they get that top lottery pick, if they become the worst team in baseball somehow, and literally record-wise are that, they'll draft pick can't even be in the top 6 or whatever, because I think there's that, or I think if they have a draft pick that falls in the top 6, it might get kicked back a little bit with the new NBA draft lottery rules. I have to look more.
Yeah, I don't.
Into that,
the new MLB lottery is new and confusing, so I'm not too sure how it works either.
And bullpen wise, last thing to get out of here, before we get out of here, bullpen wise, I won some money on a live plus 200 Phillies, because it's come to the point where the Phillies have the most respect in the league as being third highest odds to win the World Series, to where now even when they have a 2-1 lead, you can get them at plus 200 on the live betting line, and that's what I got them with last night. Transitioning to, because a part of that slip that I ended up hitting on for the Phillies to get out of the drought was the Pirates. Guess who was on the mound that closed the game out to help me win that slip for the Pirates?
Ooh, I'm assuming it's a former Philly. Okay, I'm gonna rattle off some former Phillies relievers. Carlos Estevez.
No.
Jeff Hoffman.
No.
Sir Anthony Dominguez.
No, close.
Close with Sir Anthony Dominguez. Hector Neris.
No. You always do this, man. You know the name, and you'll just run through all these dudes, like even in the filing cabinet. That's just like
I
Hector
don't
Maris,
know
like,
what
come on,
former
dude.
Phillies reliever is currently on the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Matt Vierling. That is your guess, or that is your hint. Matt
How the
Vierling.
fuck is Matt Bierling a hit?
Why would I say Matt Vierling? Why would I say that?
Guy who played on the Tigers at one point. That's not giving me nothing. I don't know, man.
Gregory Soto. Oh!
This fucking guy.
I mean, but yeah, he was on the mound. The bullpen sucks. Tanner Banks sucks.
Yeah. No, that was awful yesterday.
Tanner Banks sucks.
Yeah. No, I mean...
And they also said, I saw a report that came out about the Phillies not having enough practice versus left-handed pitching that maybe Dombrowski said or somebody said in the organization. And I thought it was funny because has Jesus Luzardo not been throwing batting practice to all MLB hitters around the league to start the season? So Jesus Luzardo's on my down tint.
Also, Mel Kiper gave the Eagles draft grade an A, and that's higher than what I had them at. And you criticized me for that. So, haha.
Who the hell is Mel Kiper?
Ha.
Who the hell is Mel Kiper?
You think you're better than Mel fucking Kiper?
You obviously don't. I thought you were the king of viral clips. You don't remember the biggest viral clip besides Laramie Tunsil gas mask before the draft back in the day.
Mel Kiper
was in a battle
funny?
with the Colts GM. Let me tell the
funny?
story. Back in the day, the battle, Mel Kiper, I think it was with the Colts GM. He criticized their pick, and the dude came on ESPN in like 1983. He came on. He's like, "Who the hell is Mel Kiper?" And now it's funny because that was back in the day, and now Mel Kiper has covered the draft for 40 plus years, and like. That being a 40-plus viral clip, this dude, like, Mel Kiper is the guy besides Daniel Jeremiah and all those guys. But he's also the guy who just won't draft the running back in the first round at all. And I know he was pissed about Jadarian Price going in the first round, but I know he was really upset about Jeremiah Love going third overall.
Well, the funny thing is, I was thinking about...
I like Mel Kiper a lot.
I was thinking about the other day if, if we were to do, go back in time and do the Meatballs of the Week that we've missed because we didn't have our podcast at the time, I would think one of the biggest meatballs of the week would have been Laramie Tunsil. So I was actually just thinking about that the other day.
Yeah, and that was another thing we didn't talk about real quickly. Caden Proctor, who's everyone's favorite. That was the pigeonhole. If you're not a draft sicko, that was just a consensus prize for Eagles sports fans to think that. He was the guy. He went to the Miami Dolphins pretty high, and I'm pretty happy that they didn't go in that direction. They got Mekhi Lemon, who was, I think
Lemon boy. When life hands you lemons,
that's
draft
also
Mekhi Lemon.
That's also pretty crazy. I feel
boy.
That's very marketable. There's gonna be lemonade company. There's gonna be a Turkey Hill lemonade, probably with Mekhi Lemon's face out there. Turkey Hill that is suffer a little. That's your Turkey Hill. If you're already not planning that. I had the original idea, so come for me with that idea. But there's a lot of marketability with it.
And knowing Philly, knowing how anytime we have an athlete with a last name that can be incorporated into a lot of puns, we've done that. And I think you're going to see a lot of Mekhi Lemon puns. We did a lot with Cliff Lee.
I think for the
We've done it a lot with
our
Andrew
last
Painter
star
so
receiver,
far.
A.J. Brown, said he was the last good thing, I guess he was on with the Philadelphia sports fan base. He was trying to get that "Ayo" chant going at the stadium. What if everybody in the crowd goes sicko mode
lemons
in their eyes in the end zone?
We bring actual lemons to the game.
No, but that's what my exact idea.
Squeeze out the lemon.
In the end zone, when he scores, everyone gets lemons out and squeezes them into their eyes and takes a couple years off their life. Just because these NFL players are out in the field taking a couple years off their lives, catching the ball over the middle like Mekhi Lemon.
Will you stop hitting my fucking chest?
I'm just trying to instill that physicality into you that Philadelphia sports needs to start bringing, and I think Mekhi Lemon is a great guy to usher in that era along with the success of the Flyers right now. So, with that being said, thank you guys for episode 133 of the Paisan Sports Podcast. We'll be back next week, starting off with Dante finally buzzing his head for that Nick Sirianni, them winning the Super Bowl turnaround Browns thing that we have never forgotten about, and that will be getting done at some point in time, and I'm going to predict that happens next podcast, along with him squeezing lemons into his eyes in honor of Mekhi Lemon being the new face of the Eagles. So, any last thoughts, Dante, before we head out of here?
No.
Okay. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week.